So I applied for pupillage at Keating Chambers because I liked contract and tort law at university. And then when it was coming to application time, I applied to 18 commercial sets, a few specialist, a few just broader general commercial sets. And I was awarded pupillage at Keating. And I fell into construction law, and it's been a happy story ever since.
My decision to apply actually came out of doing a mini pupillage at Keating. I applied really without any experience or understanding of the construction bar, but the opportunity came up and I took it. And I quickly realised that the type of work appealed to me enormously. That was quite a quick realisation. And my impression of the people that I met and engaged with during that mini all left a very good impression. And so as soon as I completed that, I put it on my list of applications that I was going to make, and luckily the process went well.
The work at Keating throughout the pupillage is essentially drafting. So there's a massive emphasis on drafting here at Keating, obviously, being a commercial practitioner. And that means drafting particulars of claim, drafting defences, replies, skeleton arguments, and you might also be doing some advices as well.
The pupillage year is broken into 4 different seats, each with a very different emphasis. The first was really all about education, and that was quite a relief because when I started, I'd been out of law school for a while. I really didn't have any experience of the construction world, and I was a little apprehensive about whether I'd be thrown into the deep end and expected to immediately be able to find my way around the construction world. And it wasn't the case at all. The emphasis was find your way, get some experience, and we'll test you a bit on it later. So that was the first seat. The second seat is really consolidating what you've learned, again, without too much pressure in terms of deadlines and testing, but with a little more expectation. That really takes up the second seat. Third seat, it becomes more of an examination. Obviously, the tendency decision looms, and so the expectations are raised. But everyone understands that, and I would say the level of support during that time goes up as a result. Fourth seat, which is what I'm in now, tendency decision has passed. Luckily, that went well, and so now it's going out into the real world, taking baby steps, beginning to get some instructions in my own right. But also still, it's an educative time. I'm still sitting with a supervisor, and I'm still very much learning.
I think the key, there's so many similarities, especially between your second six and your first year of tenancy, that it's actually hard to think of differences. But I think perhaps the key one is the increased level of responsibility. I think once you're a tenant, you're quickly running your own cases in the county courts, in the high courts, adjudications, and you're leading a team. And you have professional and lay clients look to you to advise on the right strategy or, to advise on the right move. So you have to make judgment calls, and so many judgment calls sometimes in a day. But in terms, the work stays the same because you're exposed during pupillage to, varied work, and you start doing cases in your own right in your second six. And you still have the same support from your supervisors. But I think that increased level of responsibility perhaps marks the transition. And it is exciting because you're obviously in charge of your own practice and your own cases, but it's also nerve-wracking.
It's obviously very different being a pupil versus being a tenant, but Chambers certainly were incredibly supportive through that process and continue to be so. From the clerks who manage my diary, ensure that I don't take too much on, and just give really good general practice management advice, through to the marketing team who obviously have helped me market myself and get the word out to clients that I'm a new junior tenant here, as well as help me with my CV and website profile. That's all incredibly important. And then we also have support staff like the post room, who we couldn't do the job without, and finance we also couldn't do the job without. So everyone in Chambers has been really supportive. And then obviously not forgetting all of the barristers.
My relationship with my fellow pupils has been an essential part of my pupillage year. There's really no one else going through specifically what you're going through, and they're always there to talk to. So we would go frequently for lunches, coffees, drinks, and just share war stories and how it's going. And it's important because as well, they're on the same learning curve. And then there will inevitably be times when you think things are quite difficult. And what's really reassuring is you go and speak to them and realise they're finding exactly the same thing too. And you realise, oh, you're actually not alone on this. So that was a constant source of reassurance throughout my year. So essential.
At Keating, we have no set retention rate. We have no quotas, in essence. And what that means that if you hit the required standard for a junior tenant, you will absolutely be taken on. That's really important, and I think that's a key message that we want to put out there from Keating Chambers, because what it means is that you will not be in competition with your co-pupil throughout the entirety of your pupillage. And so that's lovely, and it means that it makes the whole year more relaxed.
A pupillage at Keating is in many ways a commercial pupillage like many others, but one of the benefits of doing a pupillage at a specialist set is that you yourself begin to specialise really quite quickly, and that in turn allows you to take on much more complex work at an early stage. So you find that the work you're doing gets very interesting very quickly and quite high level. Whereas perhaps at other sets, because you require a broader skill set, you have to cover a wider area, whereas at Keating you're sort of fast-tracked into doing those interesting cases. And so I've personally found that a particularly fun aspect of it.
The genuine highlight was really because the emphasis here is all about learning and development. It was at the end of the 9 months, looking at the first pleading I ever did, and then looking at the last one I ever did, and really seeing that development. That was really special, I think. And ultimately, regardless of whether you are going to get kept on or not, you want to be the best you can be by the end of that 9 months. And I felt like I'd achieved that.
If I was to advise, first year tenant, is just don't forget you have that same level of support available to you. So, make use of that. I think you learn. I'm still learning in my second year of practice. And when I speak to Keating Chambers, or 20, 25 years in, they're still learning something new every day. So don't forget, don't try, you're not on your own. Despite the increased level of responsibility, I think you have to remember that the support in Chambers is still there, and, make the most of it.